computer. That'll make things a little easier, I think, if I do that. Hopefully I can find it again. All right. So in session 3, we're on section 2, session 3, Flex MLS. And so in the first video, we looked at how to do set up buyer tours and buyer searches. Next, we're going to look at doing that for sellers and how to set up a CMA and how to look at comps. Okay. So back into Flex MLS here. Oh, move that out of the way. Okay, here we are. All right, so now when you're working with sellers, there's a little bit different mindset. One is trying to get the cheapest price and one is trying to get the most price, right? And they need a little bit different handling in that regard, right? Okay, so let's see, where shall we start? Quick search is usually a good place to start. You don't want to start with CMA because you don't have anything in there to do a CMA with. Okay, you've got to have your listings ready and figured out which ones you're going to put in the CMA before you can use that button. So even though that's the end result, that's not where we start. We start here with quick search. You can also start with MLS search or address search. And in quick search is where you can also do a map search. Okay, so I'm going to, what's that?
What's the difference between an MLS search and a quick search and an address search?
All right, so the MLS search is when you already know the number of the properties you want to look at. So say your client has been on Zillow and they send you an email with 10 MLS numbers. Well, you can use that in that MLS search to find those particular listings.
Okay.
And then what was the other one is a quick search is what we're going to do now, which is what we did before for the buyers, but now we're going to do it with the focus on the sellers. I need to turn my phone off because it keeps dinging. And then what was the other question? There was 3 things in there. MLS search, let's go back. MLS search. Yeah. I just turned that off. Okay.
Address search.
All right. Quick search, MLS search, address search, multiple addresses. So again, your clients are going to send you an email with 10 listings they want to look at or they're interested in. And this way you can just plug them all in at once in a list. Okay, and makes your job easy that way. Okay, or sometimes you want to know what all the listings are in the office. You can look up the office listings right here, I think. I have the broker panel, so mine might be a little bit different than yours, but I think you can look at all of the office listings right here. So say you wanted to do an open house for somebody a month from now, and you're like, wonder what listings we have in the office that would be suitable. You can check here and see who has a listing that you might be able to hold open. Okay. All right, you can create listing collections. So sometimes when I'm working with somebody, and I've done a search, but I don't want to set them up on a portal to keep getting searches. I can save that particular search results in a listing collection, okay? And I can save searches. I want to know how to clean up and get rid of old ones because I only know how to add them. I don't know how to clean them up and get rid of old ones I don't need anymore. Anyway, quick search. We'll go back to the quick search there. Okay. All right, I'm going to tuck you guys away. Goodbye. Over here. All right, and so I can still see the chat. So if you have questions, make sure your microphone is muted and you send me a little message right over here and I'll pick up the question and we'll go over that. All right, so when you're working with sellers, you have a little bit different mindset. Here, I'm going to start with my status, and I want to see what else is pending and closed. Oops, not that one, closed. If I have a distressed property, I might also want these, but for the most part, I just want those. There's other uses for expired, withdrawn, and canceled. Sometimes it's good to add the expireds in there because that shows you what was overpriced and didn't sell to help you explain to your seller when you're overpriced, this is what happens. It doesn't matter what you put for pending date. It's either pending or it's not. I don't know why that's even there. for a date. But anyway, closing date, pretty much you want to go about 6 months back. That would be about September, approximately, okay? September, October, November, December, actually October, November, December, January, February, March, 6 months, okay? 6 months to today, all right? Actually, it goes out till 10 years from now. It's not, nothing's closing 10 years from now. And what's interesting about this MLS that I'm not used to is that when a property goes under contract, they actually have to put who's on the other side and when the projected closing date is. That's helpful information if you have a buyer you're working with and you're interested in a property that's in escrow and you're hoping it falls out, to know when would be the right time to check in with that agent and see if it's going to close or not. So they don't do that in the old MLS that I used to work in, but they do here. Okay, and the other thing to know, maybe this is too much information, each MLS, even though another board might be using Flex MLS, that board has complete control over what is being shown to agents and how it's being used in their market. So just because we can see this here in our market, in another market that's using Flex MLS, they might not be able to see the same things that we can. Just for handy information. I'm hoping Santa Fe board will change over to Flex. It's terrible having two different systems. I'd love to have one system for all of New Mexico. I can dream. Okay. Property subtypes. So say we're working with a single family homeowner. So we want to make sure and choose detached for single family. That's what that means. There's other choices here, I guess. Well, no, I guess there's not. I don't know why they do that then. I'm not going to select all. Select none, go back to detached. Finished. That was dumb. That was a waste of time and it didn't even stick. Okay. Say my seller is in the Northeast Heights and I want to choose far Northeast Heights and Northeast Heights to get a little bit more choices. So again, you need your control button. I missed them. There's Northeast Heights. Northeast Heights and like that. That's a lot of homes, so I'm gonna get rid of the other one. I don't need more comps. I got plenty of comps here. We don't need far Northeast Heights. It's too different and it's too many. That's a lot of homes. 6 months back, active, pending, and sold. That's a lot. Wow. Okay, so that is everything, every size, every shape, every price, and so forth. So I know that my home that we're looking at is 3 bedrooms, and I want to be specific because there's so many in here to choose from. I'm going to be specific to 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. Get rid of anything that's too big or too small. That didn't help a whole lot, but it did help a little bit. I'm not going to specify listing price, and the reason for that is that I'm looking to find out what the price is. I'm not trying to tell it what the price is. I want it to tell me what the price is. So I'm going to skip that one for the seller side search. This home is approximately 1,800 square feet, so I'm going to go to, let's try 1,600 to 2,000 as a range. And see if that gets us a little bit smaller field to work with. That's a pretty good number right there. I want to make sure that it has at least a 2-car garage. I don't want it to have a pool. I want it to be 1 story. 1 story versus 2 story makes a big difference in marketability and desirability. It doesn't really make a lot of difference in price in my view, but it is much easier to sell a single family home. So you can set your expectations with your clients. And by the way, that's a big part of what your job is, that if they're on a 2-story home, it is going to take a little longer to sell. It'll be right for somebody, but it's going to take a little bit longer to find the right buyer for a 2-story home. Somebody who's a senior is not going to take it. Somebody with disabilities is not going to take it. Somebody who's had a 2-story home and is sick of it is not going to take it. Okay. A little humor there for you. I've had 2-story homes and 1-story homes, and I much prefer a single-story home. Okay, list price. Again, I'm not going to specify this here. I want it to tell me what's the range we're going to find here. Say I have an unusually large lot, I might want to specify that, but in this case, I'm not going to. For most in the city residential lots, you don't need to specify lot. They're all pretty much with an acre or less, and often a quarter acre-ish, quarter to a third of an acre, sometimes even a tenth of an acre if they're in a tight neighborhood. So I'm not going to specify that, but if you were in a rural area, you would want to specify 1 acre or less, or 1 to 5 acres, or depending on what you're dealing with, okay? If I want to be specific to the subdivision, so say I had a subdivision that had 400 homes in it and it had a decent amount of turnover, maybe I just specify the subdivision instead of a whole area like this. This is a pretty big area. This is about 9 square miles here, 1, 2, 3 times 3. Okay, so that's a lot of area. So, but this is fairly different as you get further out to the mountains and closer to town. The housing is very different. So we're going to find a big range in this kind of a thing. So I don't know what neighborhood to choose. It doesn't give me a menu like it should. That would be really nice if we had a menu to choose from and say, you know, it was Villa Estates. And we weren't sure if it was Villa Estates or Villa East Estates or whatever. If I just typed in Villa, I might get a list to choose from, but this one doesn't do that. So I have to I have to know exactly what the real name of the subdivision is. And that's sometimes hard to do because sometimes they're spelled differently in different places. Okay, or I can just give a zip code, and I don't know if this is 1 zip code or 2 zip codes or half a zip code or what, I don't know. But that might be another way to look for homes is in a certain zip code. That's a pretty big area, a zip code, but sometimes that's the way you want to do it for whatever reason, because you can't find enough comps otherwise sometimes. This is a good number of comps. This is showing me 77 comps. That's a lot, actually. So I might want to pare this down a little bit, and instead I might want to do a circle or a polygon or a square instead. That's too many comps for me to really deal with.
That answers my question. I want to know if there was just like to draw your own.
Let's draw a box. And we're going to get rid of this Northeast Heights thing. We're going to cancel that by going here to click X. And instead, we're going to go over here. Oops. Ah, shoot. Exit. Ah, that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't mean to do that. No, it's most of the golf course and the freeway. That's not what I want. Okay, how do I get rid of a box? That's something I've had a hard time figuring out, is how to get rid of the box. There we go. Exit. Can I do that? Oh, here we go. I know how to do it. I know how to do it. You go up here and you get rid of that rectangle. Okay, now I want to use the hand feature to move closer to where I want to be, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And this is showing me everything that meets those criteria. So I'm just going to now pick a circle around here, and that's how it's showing me a 1.38 mile radius. That's a pretty good size of a territory, but it's also picking up lots of different stuff here. It's picking up Foothills homes and Northeast Heights homes, and they're very different. So let's say that's not a good way to look, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit more and get rid of that circle. And now, see, I don't like how it keeps zooming out on me. That's not what I want it to do. I want it to give me a little bit more control. But this box, say I want to be west of Tramway between Montgomery and Manal. Then I can do a box like that and say that's a fairly homogeneous area, and I'm going to get some decent comps in here. Okay, so now I only have 16 comps, which is a little bit slim of a number for comps, but that we can make that work. We might want to, for example, bump this up to 4 bedrooms and bump this up to 3 bedrooms and make this 1,500 square feet to 2,100 square feet and see if that gives us a few more numbers. Okay, so now we're up to 35. That's a good number. 25-ish, 20 to 30 is a good number range. 25 to 35, somewhere in there. That gives you a good enough group to compare properties. Okay, so that's where it's showing me how many I've got here, and I like that number. So I'm going to say that's a pretty good number. Now I can go to the list. And by the way, hopefully I've already created my client, and I can find out, you know, a client right here. I don't know why Amy's in there, but there you go. Maybe she was playing around in this or something. So here we go. Now this is 2 active listings, 2 in that area. It's like a 3 square mile area, 2 active listings. Goodness. And then we have, I can get an instant CMA right here by clicking on this and go to CMA and get a 1-line CMA. And this is going to show me a snapshot. And I love this snapshot view of what's going on in this area. Look how much of a seller's market it is right here. Can you see that? There's 26 sold, 7 pending, and 2 for sale. That's ridiculous. Okay. Melissa says she has a question, forgot to ask earlier. If you want to search for homes that have been on the market for a while, can you do that on here? Yes, I think you could. Okay. All right. So what this is showing me is that we have 2 4-bedrooms for sale that are a little bit larger than my subject property of 1,800 square feet. And there's a pretty good range of what they're selling for here too. Now I'm looking at the pendings. That's not a bad range of 136 to 157. Oh wait, 122 to 157. Okay, so that's a pretty good spread. The average is coming in at 141 a square foot. Then we look over here and we see these 26 sold homes in this area, majority were 3 bedrooms. There's a handful of 4 bedrooms in there. The average area, where's the average square foot, is 1848. That's right on target with my subject property. And by the way, that's the term for your client's property, subject property. And then the average price per square foot is $135.16. Well, look up here, we have 132 and 159. That one at 159, it better be a really nice house if it's that far above the average. You can see the average price per square foot in here. The cheapest thing I see is 115. Oh, here's one at 90. That's the cheapest thing I see. That's probably a fixer, and then probably an investor with cash snapped it up. It went for asking price very quickly, okay? Then you can see the most expensive thing in this area looks like 171 a square foot. That's a huge range, 90 to 171, okay? So to make this a valid comp sheet, you'd probably want to comb through it and get rid of stuff that's too different, either too big, too little, too nice, too ugly, and get to that middle range of what matches your property, that your subject property. Okay. Other helpful information in here is to take a look at what have things sold against the asking price. And you can see a lot of stuff went for at asking or even a tiny bit above. We're not seeing things going a whole lot above asking, like some crazy markets in the coastal areas where there's bidding wars and 20 offers on the first day on the market, and it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars above asking. We're not seeing that here, but you can see quite a few actually sold at or just above asking price. And the biggest discount I see here is one for 91% of asking price. That's the biggest discount I see, and that's unusual. As you can see here, the average discount is about 1.5%. Okay, sale price to list price, 98.24%. That means the seller got 1.75% discount on the listing price. Okay, so that's why I say it's so important to have things priced right, because if it's not within 5% of what the real market value is, it's not going to get an offer. People are not going to waste the time to do it. Investors will. Investors are happy to waste your time all day long writing ridiculous offers. So, but real buyers are not going to do it, and real agents are not going to do it. Okay. Not to disparage anybody who wants to work with investors, but they do tend to waste your time. You have to be careful about guarding your time. Okay. What else do we see in here? Days on market. That's also helpful information. So when you're doing a listing appointment, you want to be able to tell the seller, and by the way, if you can know the statistics in our market, you'll sound like a pro in any conversation. Whenever you are out and about in the public and people find out you're a realtor because you wore your name tag, they're going to ask you, how's the market? Especially right now when things are a little weird right now and people are concerned and they're worried and they're wondering. Know your market statistics. I'll show you how to do that in Flex. There's a trend area where you can look at the citywide statistics. And if you know that information, it's helpful. Now you can tell people it's a seller's market right now. Have you had thoughts of selling? And see what they're thinking. Well, no, we're not ready to move for another year. When our kids graduate from college and they don't need a big their own room anymore at home, we're going to downsize. Okay, great. But they're still wondering because they're thinking about the future, right? So you're going to get those kind of questions a lot. So know the market. So days on market. See, there's a huge range here. So this one that was 118 days on market, for some reason, it's still sold for over asking. 12 days on market, 5 days on market, 0 days on market. That might even be mine. No, mine was littler than that. 4 days on market, 100 days on market. And when you see this difference, 2 and 67, that means it was listed previously and it was on for 65 days. And now it's in this one, it's listed for 2 days. So it's had 2 listings and the cumulative is 102 and the days on market for this particular listing is different. Here's one 9 and 30. I don't know why they did that, but sometimes they pull it off the market, do some work on it, put it back on the market, or the seller gets sick and says no showings for a while. They'll take it off the market for a little bit. You know, lots of different reasons it could go off the market for a while. Or it went, I don't think it matters if it went pending. Maybe it does. Maybe that's part of the days on market versus cumulative. If it went on off market for a while to be an escrow and then it fell out again. I suppose that's possible. What I haven't figured out, to be honest, is whether that 50 days right here means that was the total time from listing date to closing date, or if it was the total time between listing date and offer date. I have not ever gotten a good answer to that question. But that would be good information to know. All right, you can see down here your average prices, 323 to 185, and the median is 242, which makes sense for this area, right? That's about what we know about that. And it's right in line with the average price of Albuquerque in general, actually. So that's all good information to know in your back pocket when people talk to you about the market, but also in particular when we have a conversation with this seller to show them just what a seller's market it is. And that means they're going to get a little bit more money for their house than they were in a different kind of market. It could shift to a buyer's market. I don't know what's going to happen after this virus problem is cleared up. It could change. But for now, it's a very hot seller's market. Everybody's complaining about the lack of inventory and about how difficult it is to get offers accepted. Okay, Connie asks, don't the agents have to present low offers? Is that a price reduction or change in terms? Okay, first question, don't the agents have to present low offers? That's a good question. I guess they do if it's in writing. I think that our documents actually give the option to not present verbal offers. I still would. It's an offer. It may not be real. Sometimes you've got a property that's overpriced and the other agent knows it.
No, you were saying that some agents won't present offers if they're from investors and they're low and it's a waste of time.
No, I don't think that. If it's writing, they have to. If it's in writing. But verbal offers, I think the contract actually says verbal offers don't have to be presented.
Verbal offers aren't offers.
Right. I still consider it an offer. It's a beginning of a conversation. So if somebody has an investor and they say, I've got somebody who's interested in this property, but they're looking to spend 110 and it's listed at 140, that's really far off. Well, I'll tell the seller about it. I just feel that's my obligation because that's how I was trained as a new agent, that you present every offer, even if it's ridiculous and even if it's verbal. But the rules here are a little bit different. So you can have
But
that
the second-
conversation with the seller. Do you want me to tell you if somebody lowballs you your offer, and what do you consider a lowball?
The second question is about the days on the market thing. Did they change it on the market when they changed the terms or the price? So now it's on the
No.
market at this price?
No.
Okay.
No, but no matter how long what price it's been, up or down, because sometimes they do go up, that's the days on market.
Okay.
So days on market to me means the date that it listed till the day it got an offer. That's days on market to me. But I'm not 100% sure if it's counting the escrow period. When we were in the short sale days, which God, I hope does not happen again,
It may.
there were months and months of days on market for some properties that were waiting for approval for short sales. So you could not use those as comps, as realistic comps for what to expect for a normal sale, because they were ridiculous. I mean, a year sometimes or more. I had one, I think we waited for a year to get approved, and then the bank said, nah, we're just going to foreclose. My buyer had waited a year and I foreclosed. So I do not have a lot of interest in doing short sales anymore because that's typical
Yeah.
result. Okay. What else can I show you here? Any other questions about this? How did we get here maybe? How we got here was I pressed the CMA button and I pressed the one-line CMA button. Okay. If you want a different kind of CMA, you can go up here and use selected or use all results. So let's go to use selected and see what happens. Over here, we get 3 different kinds of CMAs. A full CMA, which is a whole big project. A quick CMA, which is a little easier. And then the statistical CMA, which is a different kind of snapshot of the market. Okay. There is a whole video training on how to do this CMA in the help up here, okay? In the video training right there. I'm not going to get into that because it is a project, but I'd recommend that you do that because if you're doing a listing presentation and you want to really impress that seller, that would be the one you would use. Or even better, use the branded CMA in the RSA. Okay, we have in the Smart Site section, you have a branded CMA, and you can use that one, and it works very similar. There's training there for that as well. I don't want to get into it because it's an hour-long project. Okay, so quick CMA, let's see what we get with that one. Next step. You can make some choices here, a CMA type, cover page, subject, comps, adjustments, summary, recommendations. So say you wanted to make adjustments for the number of bedrooms, the number of bathrooms, the garages, and so forth. You can make those adjustments right here, okay? And cover page, you do or you don't want it, it's up to you. Their cover page is probably not that nice looking. You can customize the information here and write a message to the seller. And, oops. We lost our stuff here. And so there's lots of different ways that you can customize it. When you're done, you can email it, save it, view it, or download it. Okay. You can use all the listings. You can use 3 listings. And typically for a CMA, you would choose 3. The subject property plus 3. And the 3 most similar properties. And then adjust for a bedroom or a bathroom that's different, or square footage is a little different, or the lot size is a little different, so that you get something that's approximately a good advisement on what the price should be for this subject property. Okay, that's how an appraisal does it too. This is very much like an appraisal. Okay, so let me get out of that. Return to search results. And I might want to go through here and see what we have in here that's going to be the best comps and worst comps, because 35 is quite a few to do a CMA on. You couldn't do a CMA on 35. You could really do one on 3. So I'm going to go through here and find the most similar comps to my subject property. Since I don't really have a subject property, it would be silly for us to go through and do that. But that's what you would do, is just quickly scan through each one and find the ones that are the most like your subject property. You really want to have visited the subject property before you go to this step, because how would you know what to compare it to if you haven't seen it? So that's an important part of it. I try to go see the property first before I give them a detailed CMA. And I want to have a good idea of what's going on in their neighborhood and what the range is when I go meet with them. But sellers always want you to give them, what's my house worth? Sometimes it takes a little doing and a little thinking to figure that out. I am pretty good at, actually I should say very good at guesstimating what a house is going to sell for. Sometimes sellers don't like what I have to tell them about that because it's not what they thought. They think they have the Taj Mahal and it should be worth $1 million. And I'm trying to tell them 250 tops. They don't want to hear that. They wanted to hear 350. So yeah, you have to be very diplomatic and very careful how you present price to a seller. And that's a whole nother conversation we'll have in listing presentations. But be aware that they might not be having the same expectation of what this house is worth than you. Now, my neighbor's house sold for such and such, and mine's better than his. And so you're going to have those conversations with people. But if you know the market, when you go to visit the house, you're going to have a good sense of what their house might be worth. And I actually am seldom wrong. Sometimes, I'll be open. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not the one that's going to buy it. I can't be sure what it's really going to sell for until it actually happens. But my gut feeling is that it's going to sell for $250. I think we should list for $270 to start and come down a little bit till we get to that range where we're going to get an offer. And that's my advice. And you're in charge, Mr. Seller, of what this house actually goes on the market for. It's your house and it's your decision. Here's the properties that we're going to be competing against. Here's what has sold. And what do you think based on that it should be listed at? Let them decide. They're going to say, well, I don't know. I need you to tell me. Well, I can't tell you. It's your decision ultimately. Here is the data. And try to leave it as much in their hands as possible. And sometimes they're going to argue with you and say, well, I'm not listing it at $250. If it's going to sell at $250, then I'm not going to sell. But then they really need to sell. So it can be touchy and tricky to deal with that. So anyway, we'll talk about some of that stuff as we get into listing presentations further down. We didn't get into super key and super lock. I want to show you a little bit about that because you need to go in there on your own and play around with that. Garmember portal, this super key access link doesn't quite work like it should, I think. I don't know my user ID. Maybe this will work. I hope so. Ah, it worked. Good. Okay. So here is the super key portal right here. I'm kind of ending that section because we're out of time. It's 12:09. I want to be respectful of your time. Go in here and set yourself up in settings to set your information up and personalize things here. You don't need to worry about adding and deleting key boxes because, well, I should say the Albuquerque board people don't. I don't know. Martin, does the board in Santa Fe give you a lockbox?
No, you have to buy your own. They're $150 a piece. I got two of them. I found an agent who had two that was retiring, so she let me have them for half price. But
Great.
you have to buy your own, and then you have to set up your profile in here. So
Okay.
yeah.
You can buy them in Albuquerque, but you don't have to. You can check them out like a library book at the board. So when you have a listing coming up, go down ahead of time and grab a lockbox you need to get it onto the listing within 2 weeks or they're going to get mad at you and say, bring it back. But if you know it's coming up, get your lockbox at GAR. They'll program it for you to give you the shackle code and your PIN number is set in your phone. And when you turn it in, they'll deactivate it. But when you get it, you want to assign it to your key box under listings, I think it is. Listings and key boxes. I don't have any listings to assign to a key box right now. Everything's sold. But here it says add a key box. Okay, so then you would put the key box serial number, your shackle code, and the MLS number, and it will assign that key box to the listing. And that way you can keep track of the showings.
What's the shackle code?
The shackle code is the part on the top, the blue, how it hooks together to stick on the doorknob.
Oh,
And by the way, be careful where you put those things. They're bulky and difficult on an occupied house when they're on the front door. So on those properties, I put them on the gas meter or a water line so that it can't be taken easily, or an electrical. I don't mean you put it on an electrical line, but somewhere that it can't, say they can't cut that and take the lockbox. So gas line or water line.
I've seen them
If
here
the
in
house is
Santa.
unoccupied, the front door is often the best place to put it.
I've seen them here in Santa Fe just standing upright next to the front door even.
Yeah.
I don't know why they trust it, but they do.
Do not do that. It needs to be attached to the house somewhere.
Somewhere.
Sometimes, you know, there's a gate, then you want to put it on the gate so they can get into the gate and then get into the house. That's another way to do it. But make sure that you don't lock the key box inside the gate where it could get locked in and nobody can get to it. I've seen that happen.
yeah.
So this is where you control access. I always set it up so that the seller gets a report and gets to know what, let's see here, I've sold everything, so I don't have anything to show you here, but normally it'll show me my history of showings on a listing, and it will give me a report that I can send to the seller to show who's been in the property and when. And, you know, I always let it under settings under the key boxes, I let it tell the homeowner who's coming in their home so that they know it's having showings and who's been in the home. So I don't have any listings that have super boxes on it, so this isn't as helpful as it should be, but make sure and go in and set up your settings of how you want your super boxes to notify you and tell people who you are. When you show a property, your information goes to the other agent. When you open the box and when you close the box, or I should say, yeah, when you open the box. I don't think it goes when you close it. And it does let them know that you finished the showing when you close the box. If you don't put the box key back, the little black box in again, it times out after an hour. And the listing agent gets a notification, timed out. So that's how that works. Any questions on SuperKey? There's training in here to show you how all this stuff works. Downloads, training materials, and so forth. Get help here. There's sometimes times when your SuperKey won't work. If you go into your phone, inside your phone, where you have the app, where is that? Support, settings, about eKey app. So here's what the app looks like on your phone when you open it up. This button is for the shackle code. The big button is for getting into the lock boxes. Okay. Data at the door. There's lots of helpful tools inside here, so play around with that too. Okay. Any other questions on any of that? Okay. So I think we're done for today. You have some homework in your sheet. It says go to the Flex MLS training videos. There's 3.5 hours or so of training videos that will help you know how to use that system. And I detailed for you 5 of them that I would recommend for you to visit first. Showing Time has some training videos, and SuperKey has some training too. So some of this you'll learn as you go and you try and you bump up against it and you're like, I can't get this to work. And I'm always always willing to be helpful if you need me. But do try to figure it out on your own, or use the training manuals first, or ask for their help, because they're probably more helpful than me anyway. And I think that'll do it for today. Any other questions or comments from anybody right now?
So I'm gonna look at the super key and a couple other videos that you mentioned there, the showing time. I won't spend too much time with the Flex MLS. I'll go
Right,
ahead
it's
and
not your
play with-
MLS.
Yeah, I'll play with Paragon.
Mhm.
to it,
Right, do the
okay.
same kind of things in Paragon. Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. Okay.
Yeah. And you should by now have a pretty good working knowledge of Paragon. And they make you, Santa Fe board makes you go through like 20 hours of training
Yeah,
to
I
learn how
to-
to use it.
I had to go through that training and certify that I had completed it initially. Yes.
I got in trouble because I didn't do it.
Santa Fe special.
Oh, not really. They're just complicated.
They just think they are.
Yeah, they think they're special. Mhm.
Yeah.
But it was actually good that I did it, because I was very frustrated with Paragon because I didn't know how to use it. And doing the training really, really helped. So I totally recommend that you do the same with our system here at GAR. It will make your job so much faster and easier if you know how to use their systems. Okay, and what else are you going to do?
Yeah, you're in your house for 37 days.
I can
Lots
think
of
of some,
time. What, Connie?
I can think of some things.
Okay. Any other questions right now? Any feedback for me? Any ideas for things you want me to cover or don't cover or whatever?
I'm gonna need, I don't know if it's part of the initial training, but I'm gonna need some help, I think eventually. I know we went through it once, but the whole DocuSign and dot loop, all of that, because it just simplifies a person's life, especially now that I'm driving back and forth to Vegas. But I still am not that comfortable or adept at using that.
Well, you are in luck, because that's next week's class on Wednesday night.
All right, awesome.
Okay, Wednesday night, we're going to cover Instanet and AuthentiSign. GAR offers other options, but I really want you to use Instanet and AuthentiSign, because I can help you with those where I can't with dot loop and zip forms. Okay, so that's it for today's training. Anything else before we sign off? We have, I want to make sure and remind you, we have 2 o'clock office meeting today. I know we've been on video conference all damn day, but I want to go over some things to help you guys get through this hump that we're going to have as people get freaked out and don't want to look at houses and don't want to let their houses be shown and put on the market and stuff like that. So, and we could have some disruption in our industry. So let's talk about that, ways to get around that and keep working while we're waiting for things to get back to normal. And so that's at 2 o'clock today by Zoom meeting.
And how long does that last?
Till we're done. An hour, maybe. So it'll be an office-wide meeting, everybody in the office, not just Smart Starters.
Will you record that?
Yeah. Yeah, so
Okay.
if you've got to be somewhere else this afternoon, or you just have had enough Zoom for the day, you can watch it later, but please do watch it. There's going to be some important information for everybody.
Yeah, my family, my wife and 2 kids, we've been talking all week about doing a nature walk on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Okay,
But
well, go ahead and
if
and
I'm
you can
not
catch
there,
up
I
later.
will watch the video.
Good, good. Okay. Well, we'll miss having your input, but I do encourage you to watch it later if you've got, I want you to spend time with your family too. That's important. So, okay.
Thank you.
All right. I'll see you in a couple hours. Bye now.
All right.